Good Saturday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, and as always, thank you guys for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Joe Blue Sports Report, because you guys know this does not work without you guys. Now, here's the thing. I've been sitting here racking my brains because we know the Cowboys want Earl Thomas, and Earl Thomas wants to be here, but it's looking like he wants to get a mega deal, which is just outrageous. Now, the Cowboys in the past, now just stick with me here for a minute, have been in free agency and things and have not had major success with it, with big name players. Brandon Carr, great guy on and off the field and things. You paid like a shutdown corner, but that was not really Brandon Carr. Brandon Carr was never going to live up to that $50 million contract because that was not the guy that you're paying. And that's the problem with free agency. You see a guy who does well in one system, sometimes he benefits from being in that system and the people around him, but then when you pay him to be the guy, he's not necessarily that guy. And that's the problem that you have. You know, we had the problems with Greg Hardy. We signed him, thank God, to a one-year deal, and it turned out his personal issues and character flaws were a flaw and a problem for the team, and I believe that destroyed the locker room. So the Cowboys swung in the complete opposite direction and said, you know what, we've been in cap hell, we're not going to do this thing, we are going to go bottom basement shopping, and we're going to build a team through the draft, which is perfect. That's ultimately what you want to do, because when you think about a top tier free agent costing you $10, $15, $20 million, when you can sign your whole rookie class for about $8 million, it makes a whole lot of sense. But when you use other teams as a model, and you want to use ones that have been successful, that's the key. And you look at New England. New England very rarely have guys that are drafted and retire from the team. Exception of Tom Brady, if he ever retires. We don't even know if Tom Brady will ever retire at this point. It's beginning to look like he won't. I think he sold his soul to the devil, and that's why he can still play into his 40s. But they draft well. And their whole thing is we want to get as many draft picks as possible to give us the biggest advantage that we can get. And it's worked extremely well for them. But what they also do too is they do free agency. Now, they have an advantage because you're luring older guys with the opportunity and the track record of going to a Super Bowl. So a lot of times they'll take a more friendly deal because I got a better chance of going to New England and getting a ring than if I go to the Jets. And sometimes it's more about that in your later stages of your career than it is about getting every dollar that you can. Having that Super Bowl ring makes it better for you getting on one of the talking head shows. You know what I'm saying? It looks better because you can say Super Bowl champion. But that mix, when you think about guys like Danny Amendola, Wes Welker, Randy Moss, they have brought in guys to play a certain role and a need on the team that basically they rent them. They look for that guy right there is an exact need to do what we want to do. They don't overpay, again, because they've got the lure of that Super Bowl ring. But the Dallas Cowboys have to start looking at it that way. They've got more young talent than anybody, and that's been fantastic. But you still need those few veterans here and there. You know, like I said, New England is forever finding those guys. A lot of times they find them before they get big, like Wes Welker, and they make them a big player. But you've got to start doing that, because with us being in the tail end on free agency, by the time you've gone through, you're not getting guys that are going to make a big impact and change on it. You've gotten some players that made a difference in, like Cam Fleming, having him come in and being able to play a couple of games for Tyron Smith. Don't get me wrong, that was a good move because we went from Tyron Smith to Chaz Green the year before, and we saw how big of a disaster that was. So we've been able to find some decent guys, but we ultimately need a big punch, a big bang. And as great as Amari Cooper trade was, and you can see how big an impact having talent can infuse a team. We can't get that guy in the draft more than likely because we don't have a first round draft pick. So you've got to look at free agency. And when you look at the team being young, and if you are selling out and trying to get these contracts, you're going to be hamstrung down the road. So it's advantageous to go now all in on making this system work, making sure you got the players that give you an advantage. And sometimes the difference of making it to the Super Bowl or not is having a guy who can make a difference in a game or two. And had we had a guy who could have made a difference in a game or two last year, and I know we can look at this and say, hey, we're 10-6. Had we had Amari Cooper for the whole season, you might have had home field advantage throughout. Had we had a guy who could get a few interceptions, where we get a few more opportunities and prevent the other team from scoring, you might have won a few more games and had a home field advantage. You see where I'm saying with this? And that's what New England does. They find a couple of guys that give me an advantage in just a couple places, because that's all you need in football. Everybody is so close. You just need a advantage here and there, and you add up all those little advantages through the course of a season, and that's what gets you there. So we don't know if the $15 million that Earl Thomas is looking for, I don't think he's going to get anywhere. How hard he's going to hold on to that, or if he's willing to start from there and work his way down. The Cowboys start out at $5 or $6 million and work their way up, and somewhere in the middle they meet at, say, 10. 10, I say, yeah, it's worth it. More than that, it's not. Then you look in another direction. So I am happy because right now quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends are going to be working out. And let's be honest, I know Vosh is watching it full on. It's hard to really watch it. It really is. It's nice to see some of the big guys, running really, really fast. It's nice to see some of the wide receivers and the running backs just, like grease lightning. But it's really not all that. All right, I'll be working in the man cave. Got to get that locker done, and got to get those other cabinets stained and get working on this other kitchen. But as always, guys, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, and subscribing to the Jumping Switchboard. Hopefully this rain will stop so I can get back to doing my fireside chats. But it was a cold rain last night, and it was like, nah, I can't do that one. But I'll see you guys.